Kerr.
I, first of all, want to pay a compliment to the speeches that we've heard from the Conservative and Labour front benches. I think Liam Kerr and Polly McNeill, between them, have really captured the essence of why this bill is such a really poor way of doing business. And I want to add to my concern about the fact that the SNP government decided just to publish it a couple of days ago, really. There's a reason why we have timetables and processes in this place, and it's intended that there should be proper legislative scrutiny. And it's just not happening, and this is not the first time in this session it's happened. This is an all too familiar attitude, I'm afraid, from this SNP-devolved government. You know, they've nearly been 18 years in power, and I'm afraid in this session in particular, they are continuing to display a casual contempt for the Scottish Parliament. And I trust that the people of Scotland are watching and taking note and will hold them account in due process. But looking at the bill, it's clear why the SNP didn't really want this bill properly scrutinised, because at its core, it jeopardises public safety. Yep. And the reality is that the first duty of any government is public safety. And if there is any suggestion that we are diluting, diminishing or compromising public safety, then we need to oppose it. Now, the reality is that not everyone that's released from prison early reoffends, but there's a proportion that do. And I've been thinking about the numbers that have been offered by Liam Kerr and others in terms of the early returns that are being made to prison. And I've been thinking about our hard-pressed police officers. I mean, they are working to rule currently. Their senior officers are going home at 4 o'clock. This is just going to make life that much more difficult for our police officers in Scotland at a time when there are so many issues that they need to deal with. And frankly, looking at the images, recent images of inmates released, celebrating in the street outside the prison, toasting Sir Keir Starmer, pledging they're going to vote Labour for the rest of their lives and all the rest of that, frankly, it was not very edifying. And look at how many of them are already back in prison. And we've heard about the Scottish example. We should be learning from the experiences that we're having, not just making the same mistakes all over again. And I'm not unique in having entered politics in order to help make a better society of the one we live in, one where the hard-working and the law-abiding people thrive. But let's be sure, when public safety is compromised, prosperity is compromised. And it's, yes, of course.
I'm very grateful to Stephen Kerr to take the intervention and so quickly. Does he agree with me that one of the benefits of being able to learn from previous experiences is that we can improve the processes going forward, and that one of the challenges in this bill is a backward step to secondary legislation, which, for example, loses the Governor's veto on early release? Stephen Kerr.
Well, Martin Whitford's contribution is ever pertinent. You know, the reality is it's always the poorest and most vulnerable in our society that are hit hardest by these sorts of short-term thinking measures. They suffer the most from antisocial behaviour, from violence, from crime. Small businesses in the communities that we live in feel the brunt of theft. You know, we recently had the Scottish Retail Consortium in Parliament for a round table. My goodness me, the stories they had to tell about what's happening in their businesses, the shoplifting, the violence, the fact that perpetrators go scot-free, even though in some instances retail workers have been very badly hurt at work. This bill, and this is the biggest point I think, this bill will only further undermine the sense of public safety that, frankly, at the minute, the public are losing confidence in our justice system. And it's very serious. It will only deepen inequality, measures like this, and because the crime disproportionately affects the most vulnerable. And then there's the issue about the victims. Number of quotes from... Yes,
Rona Mackay.
Thank the member for taking the intervention. Did the member feel the same way when your government released 10,000 prisoners 70 days early?
Always through the chair. Stephen Kerr.
Absolutely. I think I cannot make it clear. I'm not in favour of early releases of prisoners, regardless of the colour of the government. Labour, Conservative, SNP. This is about public confidence in the criminal justice system. And we are getting into the realm of risking a collapse in that confidence. And in the time I've got left, and I don't have very much time left, I just want to talk about the whole nature of punishment. You know, you've got to see, members of this Parliament must see things from the point of view of the public. And the public are beginning to question the honesty of the sentencing policies we follow, for example. Victims and members of the public cannot understand why it is that prisoners are sentenced to so many years and then automatically get released. The reality is people are in prison for all kinds of different reasons. Some are there because they themselves have been failed at some point in their lives, but I think we're at risk of extending that failure to the way that people are about to be released, expeditiously. Some people are there because they've acted out of desperation, some have exercised poor judgment. And of course they must be held accountable for the harm they caused, and we can't simply write people off either. So we're talking about rehabilitation, and that really does tackle the root causes of crime, the illiteracy, the addiction, the broken relationships. But if we're going to break the cycle of offending, how does it help a prisoner to be released early when they're in mid-course of perhaps that
Mr Kerr, you will need to bring your remarks to a close, please.
I will. I just simply want to say that this bill fails on every measurement of any justice measure. It is unjust to victims, unjust to prisoners, unjust to society, unjust to everybody connected with the system, because the system is broken and these sort of short-term measures do not fix anything.
Thank you very much, Mr Kerr. I now call